Oh, you certainly are very persuasive.
So I've been told. We all know Peter Griffin isn't exactly husband of the year material, but here's something that'll blow your mind. Lois might actually be worse. Yeah, you heard that right. The woman who's supposed to be the voice of reason in the Griffin household has racked up a rap sheet of relationship crimes that would make even Quagmire say, that's too far. From full-blown affairs to literal crimes to physical abuse, Lois has done things that would send any normal person running straight to a divorce lawyer. So buckle up, because we're about to expose every single time Peter should have packed his bags and gotten the hell out of this toxic marriage.
Come on, Peter. I think Anthony wants some time alone with Meg.
The Bill Clinton bombshell. Let's kick things off with one of the most jaw-dropping moments in Family Guy history. Picture this. Former President Bill Clinton's limo breaks down right in front of the Griffin house, and somehow he and Peter become best buddies. They're hanging out, causing trouble, living it up, typical Peter stuff. But here's where things go completely off the rails. Lois decides she needs to have a little chat with Bill about corrupting her husband. Big mistake, huge. She shows up at Bill's hotel room all righteous and ready to tell him off, but apparently the former commander-in-chief is just that persuasive. Next thing you know, Peter walks in on his wife in bed with one of the most powerful men in America. Let that sink in for a second. Your wife, in bed, with a former president. That's not just cheating. That's cheating with someone who has Secret Service protection. Now, you'd think this would be the end of the marriage right there, but Lois has the audacity to blame Peter and offer to let him sleep with anyone he wants to make it even. And who does Peter pick? Lois's mom, Babs. But here's the twisted part. Peter doesn't even go through with it because he's a decent guy underneath all that stupidity. Meanwhile, Lois actually consummated her betrayal. If that doesn't scream divorce material, I don't know what does. When she went after her own daughter's boyfriend. But wait, because Lois wasn't done destroying her family's trust. Fast forward a bit and we find Meg, poor, constantly ridiculed Meg, actually managing to snag herself a decent boyfriend named Anthony. For once in her miserable life, things are looking up. That is, until her own mother decides to ruin everything. Peter makes some insensitive comments about Lois getting older, and instead of being a mature adult about it, Lois sets her sights on her daughter's underage boyfriend. Let me repeat that. Her daughter's underage boyfriend. This isn't just inappropriate, it's borderline criminal. Lois actually sends Meg out on an errand just to get her out of the house, then makes her move on Anthony. And the kid, probably scared out of his mind, goes along with it because what else is he supposed to do when his girlfriend's mom is coming on to him? Of course, Meg comes back and catches them making out on the couch. The look of betrayal on that poor girl's face would break anyone's heart. But does Lois take full responsibility? Nope. She blames Peter for making her feel old and insecure. Classic gaslighting move right there. Peter actually apologizes to her, like he's the one who just made out with a teenager. This woman has mastered the art of manipulation, and Peter falls for it every single time.
Is it okay if I invite my new boyfriend over for dinner tonight?
Yes, I share your mother's skepticism.
The casino catastrophe. Here's another gem that proves Lois has absolutely zero impulse control. The family's on a road trip to help Chris with his Boy Scout situation, and they stop at an Indian casino so Peter can use the bathroom. Simple enough, right? Wrong. While Peter's occupied, Lois spots a poker machine, and it's like a moth to a flame. Within minutes, this woman is completely hooked. Peter literally has to drag her away from the machine. And even then, she's still trying to get back to it. But here's the real kicker. When they finally go outside, Lois drops the bombshell that she gambled away the family car. Their only mode of transportation, gone, because some shiny lights looked pretty. Think about that for a second. Your wife loses the family vehicle because she couldn't walk past a slot machine. Peter has to pretend to be Native American and spend a night starving in the forest just to get their car back. And somehow, someway, their marriage survives this. Most people would consider this a deal breaker, but not Peter Griffin. The man has the patience of a saint or the survival instincts of a lemming.
Well, how you doing? Yeah, it's good, honey. Let's go.
The shoplifting spiral. If you thought gambling away the car was bad, wait until you hear about Lois's kleptomania phase. It starts innocently enough. She's short on cash at the grocery store and steals a ham instead of admitting she can't afford it. But that little rush of adrenaline turns into a full-blown addiction faster than you can say five-finger discount. Lois goes on an absolute stealing spree, hitting up stores all over Quahog. We're not talking about petty theft here. This woman steals a freaking Matisse painting, a legitimate piece of art worth probably millions of dollars. Brian catches her red-handed loading stolen goods into the car, and when he confronts her, she admits she has a problem. But even that moment of clarity isn't enough because she immediately gets arrested while trying to return the stolen items. The judge sentences her to 3 years in prison. 3 years! That's how bad her crime spree was. The Griffin household completely falls apart without her, and Peter has to orchestrate a prison break to get her out. They end up fugitives living in Asiantown, running from the law, all because Lois couldn't stop stealing things. Peter's standing by his criminal wife while they're hiding from the police. Most husbands would have signed those divorce papers the moment the gavel came down.
Here you go, meet your new friends.
The minimalism meltdown. Lois's addictive personality strikes again when she discovers a book about minimalism and decluttering. Now, wanting to simplify your life is perfectly normal, but leave it to Lois to take a reasonable concept and turn it into absolute insanity. She becomes obsessed with the idea that anything that doesn't spark joy needs to go. And by anything, I mean anyone. Lois literally kicks her entire family out of the house and makes them live in a storage unit. Her husband, her children, none of them spark joy anymore. So out they go. She's living alone in an empty house, completely convinced that the problem was all her stuff and not, her inability to handle stress like a normal person. The family finds her gone with just a cryptic note, and it takes Lois falling into a trash barge for her to realize that maybe, just maybe, throwing away your entire family isn't the path to enlightenment. But by that point, Peter and the kids have spent who knows how long living in a storage unit because their wife and mother decided they were clutter. That's not a rough patch in a marriage. That's abandonment.
It's called Throw It Away, the life-improving art of decluttering. People nowadays own too much stuff. I am encouraging them to throw it away.
Yeah, I'm your mom's friend, Mrs. Robinson.
The Justin Bieber disaster. Remember when I mentioned Lois going after underage guys? Well, her attraction to Meg's boyfriend wasn't a one-time thing. When Lois has a midlife crisis after Peter humiliates her at her own birthday party with a cruel poem about how old she's getting, she doesn't handle it with grace and dignity. Instead, she gets a makeover, starts dressing like a teenager, and sets her sights on Justin Bieber. Yes, Justin Bieber, who at the time was like 13 years old. Lois shows up at his concert screaming and acting like a crazed fan on live television where her whole family can see her making an absolute fool of herself. But it gets worse. She actually bribed security to get into Justin's green room with the explicit intention of seducing this literal child. She's in there trying to get the kid's pants off, and he's clearly confused and uncomfortable. Thankfully, Peter shows up just in time to beat up the teen pop star and save him from his predator wife. After a heart-to-heart where Peter admits his own insecurities, they kiss and make up. But let's be real here. Lois just attempted to commit a felony. The fact that Peter forgives this is beyond comprehension. Any normal person would have had her arrested, not reconciled with her. A drug addiction nightmare. Fast forward to a more recent season and we get another peek into Lois's inability to handle literally anything responsibly. Brian gets hurt and is prescribed painkillers. Straightforward enough, except Lois discovers that these pills make her feel amazing. And before you know it, she's stealing Brian's medication and getting completely hooked. When the pills run out, Lois goes into full addict mode. She's desperately searching for drugs anywhere she can find them. Under bleachers at the high school, at the pharmacy, even trying to get pills from kids doing community service. The low point comes when she nearly drowns Stewie in the pool trying to retrieve a pill he accidentally dropped in the water. She's literally putting her baby's life in danger for a fix. Brian has to lock her in his dog crate to force her through withdrawal, and she goes through hallucinations and full-on detox symptoms. This isn't someone who took a medication as prescribed and had a bad reaction. This is someone who stole drugs and developed a serious addiction that endangered her child. Peter watches his wife go through all of this and somehow decides the marriage is still worth saving.
Oh, poor Brian. Have your pain meds kicked in yet?
Oh, yeah.
How does it feel?
Oh, yeah.
The pattern of physical violence. Throughout the series, we see Lois resort to physical violence against Peter again and again. There's the episode where Peter announces he's going to paint himself to understand what it's like being African American, and Lois just snaps. She beats the living hell out of him, screaming about how sick she is of his stupid ideas. The violence is intense and prolonged, and all Peter can do is beg her to stop.
Hey, I'm home. I got groceries.
You what?
Yeah, I was driving past there and we were out of some stuff, so I...
You listen to me, you son of a bitch. I've got one thing in this lifetime. One thing!
You always say I never do anything around here.
Then there's the time Peter and Chris bring home the wrong groceries. Instead of calmly explaining what she needed, Lois loses it and physically attacks both Peter and Chris. This becomes a pattern. Whenever Lois bottles up her frustrations with Peter's idiocy instead of communicating like an adult, she explodes into violence. That's textbook domestic abuse right there. The boxing episode takes this to another level. Lois becomes a professional fighter and specifically uses her anger at Peter to fuel her fights. She's literally channeling her rage at her husband into beating other people unconscious. She becomes so violent and aggressive that she can't turn it off, and Peter becomes genuinely afraid of her. In any other context, we'd be talking about this as a serious case of domestic violence. But because it's a cartoon, it's played for laughs.
Aw, what's your matter? Mad at little old me?
Either way, this marriage has survived things that would have destroyed any real relationship 10 times over. So the next time someone tries to tell you Lois is the responsible one in the Griffin household, remind them of this list. Because when you actually look at her track record, she might just be the most toxic character in all of Quahog. And that's saying something in a town where one of the residents is literally Glenn Quagmire. If you enjoyed the video, consider subscribing and give us a thumbs up to let us reach more people.